Having said that you don't have to say Catherine Vincent all the time, I do it constantly. I think I do it more than anybody else, but I do it in dialogue. And of course, in real life, people don't talk like that. But that's another way, and I don't know if it works, but that's another way that I use to try to get rid of that distancing, is that they use their names when they're talking to each other all the time. Part of the reason for that is that they did it on the show. And I also like to think that to each of them, the other's name is the most beautiful word, and so that it adds to the romance, that they just keep saying each other's names when they talk to each other. So there's exceptions to everything. Oh, the other thing, this one's been covered before, about too much description. If it's an action thing, slowing down the action. If you're going for the emotional feel, it interrupts that. But also, if you've got a very complicated, or not even complicated, but just if you have a plot, which I tend to avoid if I can, but most people don't, so. If you have a plot where there's a little bit of suspense and all, and you spend a lot of time describing some doorway or something, the reader's going to think it's significant. And if you do that too much, they're going to end up feeling kind of cheated because you spent all this time talking about things that really had no role in the plot at all. So it kind of slows it down that way too. The other, now again, personal opinion. It's always very important in this fandom to say that it's only your personal opinion. I think another thing that distances is trying to use dialect. And the person that immediately comes to mind is Narcissa. And we all know the way that she talks, and we know that if we wrote it down literally, the spelling would be strange and the words would be odd and all. And that might be real accurate, but I think the reader would end up so concerned with those little letters on the page and working them out and what they mean that they would lose the whole thing. I'm not sure exactly how you do that successfully. What I've always tried to do is to just kind of key into the character with a phrase or something that they've actually said that clicks on in your mind. Okay, this is Narcissa, and then I think that the reader supplies the rest. If you can get the cadence of it right, just the sort of the rhythm of the way somebody speaks, I think it's better than to try and do these real complicated contractions and stuff. Because I think you just end up so distracted that you lose the content. You're too busy looking at the words. The other thing, as far as the way people speak, is I think punctuation. I like to think punctuation is our friend. And you couldn't get away with that again in mainstream publishing. In fanzine, you can do whatever you want. And those are ways to kind of get the rhythm of the way somebody talks. Now, some people are driven crazy by ellipses, three-dot journalism. And one of the first fanzines I ever read that really excited me, I thought it was wonderful, had an ellipse at about the end of every line. It didn't bother me because I really loved that story. And but a lot of people I knew were critical of it because that did bother them, all those little dots. But I try to be real creative with punctuation, and it really can help you in terms of, if a person speaks slowly, or if they tend to speak in long sentences, or if they tend to speak in short, choppy, incomplete sentences, like the person who isn't here. But you can do a lot of that with punctuation. Somebody's got to be disagreeing. Come on, fan writers. Somebody does it different, I know. Those were the basic things that I wrote down because they're things that people comment on a lot or ask about. So, given that and the fact that I can't read anything else, yeah, okay.
read, you would get a completely different idea than you thought you did?
No, because one of the first stories I wrote was The Bridge. And it was just incredible. It was great in a way, because I would open one letter and it would say, "What do you mean? You should never write another story. I've been trying all night." Then I'd open the next one and it would say, "For the first time I feel hopeful about the show. I feel good again. Thank you so much for this story." So this was only the second story I ever wrote in my life, because I wrote them in order. The first one was the first story in Kaleidoscope. The second one was The Bridge. And so I think it was kind of good to get that kind of reaction, because that story got more reaction than anything I think I've ever written. And people would just be poles apart. They had totally different concepts of it, which immediately taught me that it's as much the reader's experience going into a story and their interpretation as it is the writer's. And you sort of have to, once a story's out there, you have to kind of let it go. You know what you meant to say, you know what it means to you, but you have to kind of accept that it's going to be a different animal to every person, because they're going to bring their own experiences to it. That story in particular, I think, was sort of a glass is half empty, glass is half full look at things, and it really depended on the reader's attitude, how they felt about it, or what they thought it was really trying to say. And I found that endlessly fascinating. And other things which are not, haven't gotten that reaction, but you see the same kind of thing in a milder way. You just have to know that the reader, that story belongs to them as much as it belongs to you, and it's interpreted their way as much as it is yours. But yeah, it's kind of fascinating sometimes when you see that. Just totally opposite. Totally, it couldn't be any different, the reactions. Somebody told me they were going to organize a boycott. I think it was TownCon 2, if they sold The Bridge. If they did a show.
Oh my God.
I got a question. I read like you. I just didn't put the timer, no outline, let it go. But I have a problem with redundancy. How do you know when you're repeating something too much? And how do you know when you're not saying enough? I can never find the balance between the two. It takes me a couple of rewrites before I get it right. But
That's what it's called. It's called rewrite. And I don't know about you, but I don't like it. But it does help a lot, I think, if you have somebody else to read your stuff. Like I said before, Pamela Garrett and I have always exchanged our stories, and basically we have the same vision of the show. I think that helps. Our styles are very different, but that's the kind of thing where somebody can read and go, I'm really tired of hearing about such and such. You made the point back here. That's a big help. But it almost has to be, in the case of Fanzine Rain, it almost has to be somebody who does know the show. It's very difficult to try and take it. Like I was asked to do a version of When Angels Fall for Kate Gross. I think that'll be out shortly after the promo book, which may be out in the year 2000. But I realized that in giving it to him, that had to be rewritten considerably to go to a wider audience, because I was enjoying the luxury of everybody knows if I refer to Lisa, they know everything about Lisa. They have their own opinion of Lisa. They know what happened. That's all I have to say. But if you're going to put it out there, in Walden Books or something, and casual viewers are going to come along, you have to add a lot more stuff. And so I got into a lot of that kind of thing. I didn't want to hit people over the head with some of these things, because I thought, real fans are going to be bored silly. But you have to get a certain amount in there. So I think it's best if you can give it to somebody else